In today's video, we're setting up the Nano Peninsula. Here we have the aquascape on the Red Sea Nano Peninsula, and I've gone for what I would say a traditional peninsula look with a rock down the middle and going from back to front, from high to low. Now I've gone for a slight twist on it because it's not face on to the far end, although there's not much of a far end on this tank. I've put it here, and the reason being, as you walk along the dining room, you then really do see this facing you. So slightly different to I think what you usually see, but I like it. And I'm really pleased how it's come out. I'm going to do a separate video on how I put this rock skate together, how I plan for it. And I've deliberately gone for a rock skate that's not that high. And also lots of holes in it for fish and also swim through. I raised it along here so that the sand wouldn't cover a lot of the bottom of the rock. But I've got to say, I'm really pleased with the outcome of it. The only thing is I want to show you to put small pieces of rock here. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the sand in, see how it goes, and I can always add some small pieces there so it kind of comes out a bit more. But what I've deliberately done is avoided the edges. Probably that's the closest piece there. So there's lots of room to clean the glass. So let's have a look at the sand. So the sand, I've gone for this reef flowers, pearl white sand. Now I've never used this sand before. Usually when I've last couple of tanks I've used live sand, and the reason being it really does help with getting bacteria into the tank. But the reason why I didn't go for that this time is a bag of live sand would have been far too big for this tank, and I saw this and it was fairly cheap, and also it's not that much, so that'll be more than enough for the tank. My only concern about is this too white, and also it's fairly thin. The grain on that is really fine. So I would say if you had a lot of some powerful power heads and you're going for a lot of flow, that might not be ideal, because that is fine than what I don't usually go for. But I mean, yeah, obviously it's really white. It's kind of when people have their teeth whitened, that's how white that is. But we'll give it a go, and if not, I can always take it out. But I just want to try something different in the tank. It'll obviously colour up a little bit as it goes. If not, it's going to be popping white, which might be good against the corals. So it looks like it's quite dusty. So I'm going to rinse it out first, get rid of all that dust, and then we'll see how it goes. That's the amount of dust you see. So I've poured some water into a container after I've put the sand in, and it is really dusty. So you just empty that out 2 or 3 times into buckets so the water can go in the garden until it's fairly clear. And something a little bit different for this tank. So fortunately I've got the outside tap where I connect the RO there. So there's the RO unit there. And then fortunately the blue cable or lead or pipe connects and is long enough to go straight into the tank. So for the first time, instead of filling a tank with salt water, I'm going to fill it with RO water, and you can see it's probably approaching 2/3 full. So now that it's all set up, the RO, I've got to put some salt in. So I've already put 6 cups in, and it's dissolved pretty well. So I've been quite surprised how quickly. There was a little bit of salt on the glass, and you might be able to see it right at the very back. But all in all, it's worked really well. So I'm just going to put another 4 in, and then it should be done, and I'll test the salinity. And what's quite good, as you can see it go in, the flow, it's just really kicking it around quite well. So I've been quite surprised how good the flow is on this particular tank. So I may not need a power head, which would be brilliant. But obviously it depends on the coral. So that's the second cup. So I actually use Red Sea blue bucket. I've been using it for quite a while, probably for about 7 years. And the reason why I use it is I like the parameters. Its alkalinity is about 8.4, which is ideal, although I run tanks between 7 and 8. 8.4 is perfect. I did start off with the Coral Pro, but that alkalinity was 12.4 and I found that was far too high. So that should take about an hour or so, and then that should completely clear, other than there'll be a little bit of salt on the glass, and I can just get rid of that. And then if we actually go a little bit closer, we can actually see the flow. So there's the movement on the top of the tank. Now remember, there's no power head on that at all, and that's actually more than I thought it would be. So I'm quite pleased with that. There's quite a lot of surface agitation, which is what you want and what you need in a tank when you start putting fish in. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with how that's turning up. Just using a flipper blade, a Nano one. It's ideal for this size. You might be able to see that there's a lump of salt just there. So it'll be interesting to see how that dissolves, but that's crystallised in the water. So it's about an hour later and it's cleared, but it's still very cloudy. I think that's due to the glass. I'm not sure I can pick it up on the camera, but it's actually clearing up, which suggests there's a film on the glass. But all in all, I think that's dissolved pretty well, which is good, and it didn't take that long, about an hour. So I must admit, I do like the idea of mixing your salt water in with your RO, rather than doing it in buckets or containers and then transferring it or pumping it into there. It's been a lot quicker and I think a lot easier. I haven't got a heater on this tank yet because it's been 32 degrees outside and it's really warm inside, but I need to get a heater that will go into the back chamber down there. I think I'll go for 100 watt, I'm not too sure which one I'll go for yet. So to help cycle the tank, you can use a number of things. You could put ATM Colony in or Dr. Tim's, and that really does speed things up. But what I'm going to do is an old-fashioned way, and I've done it a number of times. So I'm going to use a prawn. So that prawn will go into the tank, and once it starts rotting, I will take it out and that will trigger the ammonia, which then leads into nitrite and then nitrate. So that's the end of the video, and what I'm going to do now is turn the lights off and let it cycle with no lights. Thanks for watching.